fellow artists, I'm sure you can relate if you have cats. I was trying to fill my palette, but someone decided she needs to be petted right now. This is Lucy, by the way. Her brother and her have been living with us for I think 3 years now, since COVID. So I thought today would be just a fun opportunity to talk about my watercolor palette, and you can keep me company as I clean it a little bit. So I'll just tell you about the specific colors before I tell you about the palette. I get a lot of questions about this all the time, so in this video I will hopefully answer all of your questions about the palette, about the colors in it, and if you have any other questions then please leave them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Also, if you're new here, hi, my name is Irit. I'm an intuitive artist based in Austria and Europe, and on my channel I share my artsy adventures. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so that I know what you like. I invite you to subscribe. I am doing my best to post 2 new videos every week. One is usually a painting process and the other one is usually something that has more to do with art supplies. So lots of new fun videos every single week for the foreseeable future. Okay. So the reason I decided to mess a bit with my palette is because I had one color that I felt wasn't really serving me. I wasn't really using it. And then another color that I absolutely love. I just ran out of it in the full pan where it lives, and I thought it could use an upgrade to one of the wells. So before I get into the specific colors, let's talk a little bit about this palette. I got this palette a few years ago, and as you can see, it has, I think, 18 wells. I should know that since I have it forever, but you can see it has wells, and then in the middle it has an insert that holds pans. Now, I have tried tons and tons and tons of palettes, and this one is my go-to, my favorite, the one that worked for me. It's not particularly pretty, it's not particularly elegant, it is made of plastic, and I do prefer other materials like metal or glass, like porcelain or something, and I have all of these, but this one just works best for me, for my needs. I love the large mixing area, and I love the fact that I have that combination of big wells where I can house my go-to colors that I love most of the time, that I use consistently. And then I have an area where I can audition new colors without having to clear, a well for them. So for me, it's less wasteful, and it really serves the way that I like to paint, which is very, very focused on color. Now, I had this one pink in my palette because this is, a living, changing thing. Ideally, I would like everything to be in perfect rainbow order because my brain loves that sort of organization. But because I fall in and out of colors occasionally, it's not always 100% possible, but I do try to kind of keep it as close as I can. And this is the reason why I'm moving now this pink. So the color that I decided to get rid of is Carmine by Van Gogh, which is this really, really vibrant, beautiful red. It is really intense and a little bit too opaque for my personal preference, and I just found that I haven't been using it, hardly ever in the last month, and then when I do, it's just a little bit too intense for me. So it's not that there's anything wrong with it, it just doesn't deserve a well in my current situation. If you don't want to throw any discarded paint, you can put it in a little half pan or full pan, whatever, and keep it aside until maybe you fall back in love with that color. I've done that many, many times. The color I am adding instead is by Lukas, which is a German brand, and it is Yellow Naples Reddish or Red, and it's just a really lovely kind of earthy, soft orange color. And it works so well in my paintings, in florals, in seascapes, in landscapes. It creates the most beautiful kind of corally shades when I mix it with my pinks, my super bright pinks, and it creates really interesting, more neutral colors when I mixed it with lavender, for example, or ultramarine. So I've been using a ton of this color, and I decided finally, especially since I haven't been using that other pink, that it deserves a place in my palette. And since it is orange, I preferred to house it between the yellows and the pinks. And especially actually now it works because right now I have two pinks in my palette. So the one that I'm squeezing right now is a newer addition to my palette, and I absolutely love it. This is Opus from Da Vinci. Da Vinci is an American brand, and this is just like this luminous pink that is not garish and not fluorescent like opera, for example. I adore it, and I think I can say that I don't feel the need to have more pinks when I have my two faves, which is Opus and then its neighbor that moved now to its new house, which is Holbine's Bright Rose, my ride or die pink for the last probably 3-4 years. I don't know, I've gone through several tubes of it. And I thought this was also a good opportunity to refresh some of the wells that were looking a little bit sad. So the one that I'm doing now is Nickel Azo Yellow. I used up my tube of Daniel Smith. I think this is my second tube. It's very, very possible. I'm not sure if I will repurchase because I think this is a color that many brands have. So I'm going to look through my stash, and if I don't have anything, then I'll probably get one from a European brand. Just because it's more cost effective for me in Europe. But the Daniel Smith one is beautiful. I just don't think that it is a unique color that is worth the splurge for me, being over in Europe. Daniel Smith is very, very expensive. I'm also replenishing my buff titanium that I just did. And the buff titanium that I currently have in my palette is actually gouache from Daniel Smith, and I absolutely love it. If you enjoy adding kind of opacity and a little bit of like muddiness to your colors, which I do, try this. I've been using buff titanium for several years, the watercolor, but now that Daniel Smith came up with gouache, this was one of the colors that I tried, and I found it to serve its purpose even better as gouache. So I replenished that, and now I'm also filling up my Naples yellow well. I have the Schmincke version. Well, this is the end of it. I have to look. I'm not sure which brand I can replace this with. Naples yellow is one of those colors that I feel like most brands make a similar version of it, except Schmincke. Yeah, I don't think I can think of other brands that have such a creamy, yellowy, buttery version of Naples yellow. I think many, many brands make something that to me resembles more of a yellow ochre, and I really love the Schmincke version. I use it all the time. I think this is also probably my second or third tube. Then I also added some white. I think this is Rembrandt's white, like titanium white watercolor. You can use gouache. Yeah, I think this one works well for me. I like my white to be opaque. That's why I don't use zinc white or Chinese white, which are semi-opaque usually. I like titanium white, and this one is okay for me. So let me talk a little bit more about the palette. I used to sell this palette in my shop because it was very hard to find. Sometimes it would appear on Amazon, but a lot of the time it would be sold out. And then the suppliers that I used kind of ran out of it, and so I stopped selling it in my shop. I get questions all the time about the palette. I think you can find it on Amazon. It's very, very affordable. It's less than $20. I think it's amazing. As I said, it's not the prettiest. It's made of plastic, but it works really, really well. Now, I have the old inserts. It used to come with a metal insert. Now it comes with a plastic insert. It's not as good, but still, it's better than any other palette that I have personally tried, at least for me, with my style. I think this palette just works really well for people that like to switch things up occasionally, but still have their go-tos. So this really gives you the opportunity to try colors without, you know, taking up that prime real estate. So I had 2 cobalt violets in my palette, and I just put them in one well. That's another, I think I would say probably cobalt violet is my signature color, because I think I talk about it more than probably any other watercolor artist I've seen on YouTube. So right now I'm filling up my bright rose well. I talked about that color again, just in case you're interested. The next color right next to it is Rose of Ultramarine, which I do use. I use it quite often. I'm not sure. I might bump it in favor of Permanent Magenta that I recently got from Da Vinci. I really like the granulation of Rose of Ultramarine. It has ultramarine blue in it, so it gives you that typical ultramarine granulation, which the Permanent Magenta doesn't have, but the Permanent Magenta has a little bit more of a punch. The color itself, I would say, is quite similar. So I don't know, maybe I'll just mix the two. I'm not sure what I'll do, but that's the color that is there right now. So next to it, there's Cobalt Violet, and I think what I have there is a mixture of 3 brands. I think there's some Winsor & Newton in there, and then some Rembrandt, and a little bit of Da Vinci's Cobalt Violet Deep, which is what I'll probably be using from now on because I ran out of all the other ones. Formula-wise, the Winsor & Newton is my favorite. Cobalt Violet is notoriously hard to formulate, it seems. That has been my experience. So once you find a good one, you know, it's very enjoyable to use it. And now we're moving to another section of my palette. These are my darks and somewhat more neutral. So what I have there, you can see there's this one elongated corner well that has Artemis in it from Da Vinci. This is a Moon Glow dupe, and it is wonderful. I think the light fastness is supposed to be a bit better than Moon Glow. I'm not sure, but the color itself is just a slightly has better granulation and separation, and it is more affordable. You can buy a huge tube of it. So highly recommend, if you like Moon Glow, to try also Artemis. And then the one that I'm emptying right now, I think I had in it Dusk Pink from Rembrandt, which I really loved and use a lot, but kind of fell out of love with it recently. And so I'm going to put instead Tundra Violet from Schmincke. Now I have to say, Schmincke has been my #1 choice when it comes to formulation and quality of paint. But I think with their super granulating colors, they dropped the ball a little bit, probably because of just the characteristics of these pigments that granulate. But the formula is a lot more heavy on the binder and is a lot less reliable than their usual. So I hope they can figure that out. But yeah, it's not perfection like I would have said in the past. And then the one at the corner is Daniel Smith Hamatite Genuine something. I forgot. But it's great. I'll try to list it below if I can remember. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions about the palette, the colors, or anything, then just leave me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer it. Have a wonderful day. Make something pretty. Take care. Bye-bye.